Hey everyone, welcome to Bank of North Dakota on Facebook Live. Every Tuesday at 4 o'clock we are going live to discuss different topics on saving, planning for college, and financial literacy. This week we're going to be talking about the different types of student loans. So the two types that we're going to be discussing today and the differences are going to be federal loans and then private or alternative loans. So those are the big two types. The main difference, of course, is where the funds are coming from. Federal loans come directly from the federal government. So your lender is going to be the Department of Education, where private loans are going to come from, a bank or somewhere else, like the Bank of North Dakota. We do student loans here, which I'm sure all of you are very well aware of. So when taking out a student loan, the thing that most people look at least up front, is going to be interest rates. That's the one thing that you hear over and over again, is interest rates. Find a good interest rate. So federal loans, the big thing with their interest rates is that each type of loan has a different interest rate. So a federal subsidized or unsubsidized loan is going to have a different interest rate than a PLUS loan for a graduate student or a Parent PLUS loan, for instance. So all of those are going to have one set interest rate, and that is determined by the federal government. Where private loans, those interest rates are determined by the lender. So typically a bank, the interest rate might be based on their prime rate and then your credit score or your cosigner's credit score, as well as your credit history. And there may be other factors that borrowers or that lenders take into consideration as well when determining a borrower's interest rate. For instance, at the Bank of North Dakota, we offer our borrowers two different kinds of interest rates. A variable, which changes every 3 months. So it means over the entire life of the loan, the interest rate will change once a quarter, so that every 3 months. But we also have a fixed interest rate, which is going to be the exact same rate throughout the entire life of the loan. So if you take that loan out today, it'll be the same interest rate when you take it out or when you're repaying on it 7, 8, 9, 10 years from now. So that's a big difference, is interest rates. There's fixed and variable interest rates, and then where the money comes from, of course, is going to be different too. So the second thing to consider when you're taking out a student loan and to consider the differences is going to be your repayment terms, or how long you are going to be expected to pay back that student loan in. Federal loans, of course, have a 10-year repayment term. That's pretty standard for borrowers. So once you enter repayment, you as a borrower have 10 years to pay back that loan in full. Where private or alternative loans, you may have a 10-year term depending on the amount that you took out of that loan. But if you took out a larger amount, you might have a 20 or 25-year term. For instance, at the Bank of North Dakota, if you take out more than $30,000 in student loans, you would have a 25-year repayment term for those loans. So how long you have to pay off that loan in full is going to be a big difference between those federal loans and those private loans. The next thing you're going to want to take into consideration are deferment and forbearance options. And this usually isn't something that most borrowers take into consideration right up front when you're taking out that student loan. So deferment or forbearance is an option that lenders give borrowers to either stop making payments on their student loans temporarily or to lower the amount of their payments temporarily. And this isn't something that borrowers are automatically placed on. It's kind of a last resort type thing to avoid default. So since borrowers are not automatically placed on this, this is going to be something that you have to request. So if you need it, contact your lender. They're going to give you the forms that you need to fill out and the entire process that you need to get in order, or that you need to go through to get on a deferment or forbearance. So keep that in mind, it's not automatic, you do have to request it. And a really important thing, if you do get that forbearance, make sure you make your student loan payments so you don't go into default until that forbearance or deferment is in place. That's one thing that's really, really super important when you do that. And another thing with the deferment or forbearance, not all student loans offer that. A lot of them do, but there are some that don't. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're taking out a loan. And I just wanted to let you know, kind of missed this talking about the repayment terms, but students don't have to make payments on most student loans while they're in college. Basically, you're in a student deferment, so you don't make payments while you're in college on most student loans. Again, there are those loans out there that you do have to pay on while you're in college, and then you have what's called a 6-month grace period that you have to repay that loan. So as long as you are a full-time student and making satisfactory academic progress, you will have a 6-month grace period after you graduate or fall below half-time to enter repayment. So that's typically 6 months. And again, not all lenders have it, most do. So just check what the repayment terms of that are when you enter repayment. So, so interest rates, repayment terms, and then deferment or forbearance are options that you're going to want to look for. And the very last one, of course, are repayment options. Those federal loans are going to have repayment options, income-based repayment plans. You might hear IBR as the term for that, so income-based repayment. And there's going to be a lot of different types of income-based repayment that the Department of Education offers borrowers. So if you think that an income-based repayment plan is for you, head on over to the Federal Student Aid website so you can see what plans are available. The most common one is income-based, so you just have to provide evidence of your income and family size, similar to how you do on the FAFSA, to be considered to qualify. And then your payments will be structured around your income instead of the standard repayment plan that you would automatically be on. So how do you get on this income-based repayment plan? You would basically apply for it the same way you do the FAFSA. So if you want that, you just go in, use the IRS data retrieval tool, and then that will pull in all of your income and family size information, and then they'll determine if you qualify or not. And if you do qualify, you actually do have to recertify with them every single year using the same process. So if you're a pro at the FAFSA, you'll be a pro on income-based repayment if that's something that you would decide. Now I want to touch on one other type of federal student loan. It's actually for parents. It's called the Parent Plus loan. So mom and dad, if you decide that you want to take out a student loan for your child, you can definitely take out the Parent Plus loan. One thing about this is that it's a lot different than the student loans that your student is going to take out. For instance, this year the interest rate on that is 7%, so that's considerably higher than the direct loans that your student would be taking out, even some private loans. Borrowers don't get a grace period with that. Your parents would actually have to begin repayment right away after those funds are dispersed. So you begin paying those loans back immediately. You can file for a deferment while your student is in college. And then, as long as you meet the criteria, you would not have to make payments while the student is in college, but then you would get a 6-month grace period at the end of that. But you do have to apply for that deferment. It's not automatic. And another thing, mom and dad, if you take this out, it's in your name. Unfortunately, you can't, your student will never be responsible to pay back that loan. So those are the differences between a couple different types of federal loans, private loans, and the top 4 things to look for in those differences. If you have any questions, of course, leave it in the comments. If you want to ask something privately, direct message the Bank of North Dakota, and we will go ahead and get that answered for you right away. Thanks for joining us on Facebook Live with the Bank of North Dakota. We go live every single Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Make sure you like Bank of North Dakota as well as turn on your live notifications so you get notified every single time we go live. Sometimes we even do special events, which is pretty exciting. Next week at 4 o'clock, we will be talking about scholarships with a special guest from the Department of Public Instruction. So we talked about student loans today. If you want to learn how to get free money for college, join us next week for scholarships. Thanks, everyone.